Hey there, this is Richard, your Quizrat Hero, and today I am going to explain to you a P5 science question. This is sample question 1. So, what you should achieve from today's video presentation is that first of all, you should know the conditions required for photosynthesis, and second of all, you should know how to determine whether one is a fair test or not. So this is scenario A. Tim prepared 4 setups, W, X, Y, and Z. In each setup, similar potted plants were placed in identical containers. The containers were then placed in an open field for some time. Alright, so what are they testing in this question? They are trying to test the conditions that allow photosynthesis to take place. In case you didn't know, during photosynthesis, a plant takes in carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight and gives out oxygen in the process. As you know, photosynthesis is the process where a plant makes food for itself. But how does it do it then? Alright, so in case you didn't know, during photosynthesis, sunlight is absorbed by chloroplasts containing chlorophyll, a green pigment found in leaves. Alright, so after absorbing that sunlight, the leaves are now able to make food for themselves. Alright, so you also do know that all living things, including plants, need air to survive, right? Thus, we can say that these are the perfect conditions for photosynthesis: the presence of air, carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight. So, in this question, if we look back, we can see that setup W is made of a clear plastic container, and clear plastic is transparent, thus allowing light to pass through, allowing for the presence of sunlight in this setup. Now there's the presence of air. As you know, air contains nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and other gases, alright? And wet soil, as you can see, the word wet determines that this soil has water in it, alright? So now we can say that in this question, setup W is a setup with the best conditions for photosynthesis to take place. So, in the next few slides, we will compare between setups W and X, W and Y, along with W and Z. So first, let's compare between setups W and X. So, as we saw earlier, setup W there is a presence of sunlight in setup W due to clear plastic, which I said earlier was transparent, allowing light to pass through. Then there is a presence of carbon dioxide in setup W as well, due to the presence of air inside the container. And finally, there is a presence of water due to the wet soil. However, when we look at setup X, it may look a bit similar to setup W due to the presence of sunlight and the presence of carbon dioxide. However, the main difference is the absence of water. As you see in this setup, if you can see setup X, you can see dry soil. What does that mean? As you know, dry means no water, right? So basically, you can say that dry soil is soil without water. Thus, there is no water in this setup, meaning that it has an absence of water. So the main difference between setups W and X is the presence of water, whereas setup W has a presence of water, whereas setup X has an absence of water. Alright, so now let's compare between setups W and Y. We already seen setup W, presence of sunlight, presence of carbon dioxide, presence of water. Alright, so now let's look directly at setup Y. Setup Y, there is an absence of sunlight. Why is that so? Well, it's because if you look back, setup Y is covered with a black plastic bag. And as you know, black plastic bags are opaque, thus not allowing light to pass through, causing an absence of sunlight. And then the rest is all the same. Setup W, presence of carbon dioxide, and the presence of water. Thus, we can say that the main difference between setups W and Y is the presence of sunlight, where setup W has a presence of sunlight, whereas setup Y has an absence of sunlight. meaning there is no sunlight in this setup. Alright, so our last comparison for the day. So today we're going to compare between setups W and Z. So setup W is the exact same thing, so we just move on to setup Z. So setup Z, alright, there's a presence of sunlight in the clear plastic container, which is transparent, as I said before. However, there's an absence of carbon dioxide despite having air in it, and air has carbon dioxide. Why is that so? Well, it's because if you didn't realize, there is a substance that absorbs carbon dioxide inside setup Z. What does that mean? So basically, the carbon dioxide in the air is absorbed by this substance, thus leading to an absence in carbon dioxide. And finally, there's a presence of water as well. So we can say that the difference between setups W and Z is that it's the presence of carbon dioxide, where setup W has a presence of carbon dioxide, meaning that there is carbon dioxide in setup W, while setup Z has an absence of carbon dioxide, meaning that there is no carbon dioxide in this setup. Alright, so based on the setup, so state the missing variables, if any, that's needed for photosynthesis. So first of all, we'll look at setup W. Right? Setup W, clear plastic, is in a clear plastic container, has a presence of air and wet soil. So we can say that setup W does not have any missing variables that is needed for photosynthesis. As for setup X, let's look at the comparison again. Setup X has absence of water, meaning that there is no water in this setup. And water is one of the main conditions needed for photosynthesis to take place. So we can say that setup X needs to have a presence of water in the soil in order for photosynthesis to take place in the setup. Alright, so remember that it is important to specify in this particular question, because if you just write presence of water, it's not specific enough and you might not get the mark if you write it in this way in your exam papers. Alright, so for setup Y, let's look again. It is absence of sunlight that is preventing setup Y from being the setup with the perfect conditions for photosynthesis to take place. Right, because it is covered with a black plastic bag which is opaque, as I said before. So first, we can say that the missing variable for setup Y is the presence of sunlight. We need this presence of sunlight before photosynthesis can take place in this setup. Alright, so let's look at the last setup, setup Z. So setup Z, as we looked in the previous slide, is absence of carbon dioxide due to the substance that absorbs carbon dioxide. So basically, as I said before, the carbon dioxide in the air is absorbed by this substance, thus leading to an absence of carbon dioxide, meaning that there is no carbon dioxide in this setup. So first, we can immediately say that this missing variable in setup Z is the presence of carbon dioxide. This presence of carbon dioxide is needed in order for photosynthesis to take place. Alright, so that is the first part of this question. So now, let's compare which two setups could Tim use to find out if plants need sunlight to survive. So sunlight, the main keyword. So let's look back at the comparisons, alright? So comparisons between setups W and X, presence of water. So basically the difference is the presence of water and the absence of water respectively. Alright, where setup W and Y is the presence of sunlight and the absence of sunlight. So basically, this means that in this case, it should be setups W and Y. So basically, Tim should use setups W and Y to find out if plants need sunlight to survive due to the fact that the difference between these two setups is the presence of sunlight. Alright? Alright, so as I said before, the plant in setup W is in the container made of clear plastic. Whereas the plant in setup Y is covered in a black plastic bag, so on and so forth. As a black plastic bag is opaque. Right? Light is unable to pass through the black plastic bag to the plant in setup Y, thus resulting in the absence of sunlight. However, As for setup W, as clear plastic is transparent, it allows light to pass through the clear plastic container to the plant. Thus, we can say that there is a presence of sunlight. Therefore, Tim should compare setups W and Y if he wants to find out if plants need sunlight to survive. Alright, so the last part for today's sample question. Scenario B. Tim decides to remove the black plastic bag from setup Y instead and place the setup in the cupboard in the dark room. Ali commented that the experiment will not be a fair test. Give a reason for your answer. Alright, so in this part of the question, they are testing you on the concepts of a fair test. So what is a fair test? A fair test is a test that's only one change variable between two or more different setups. In this case, Tim moves setup Y to a cupboard in the dark room. Due to the change in location from the open field to the cupboard in the dark room, the temperature of the surrounding environment of setup Y will be affected. Now, not only is setup Y different from setup W in terms of absence of sunlight, it is also different in terms of the location and the temperature of the surroundings, thus not making a fair test. As we said before, a fair test is a test that has only one change variable between two or more different setups. Alright? So thank you for watching and remember to follow our Facebook page at Quizrat. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Quizrat Academy. Thank you very much and hope you enjoyed today's video.